That's hard for a politician to do.
That's a trap door.
Yeah. At 5 minutes, it just drops. I want to thank you all very much for having me here. I truly mean that. I appreciate the honor of being here, and I am humbled. You can't hear me? Okay. No, I can take care of that. Oops, I'm out of the box.
They'll hear you.
I used to work Vice, and we saw things like this all the time. I feel like I'm being set up. Anyways, as I said, before I get started, though, I've got one important thing. You still can't hear me? You're deaf. I want to introduce the most important person to me, and probably the better candidate if she would just have stepped up instead of pushing me out front. I want Nancy. This is my wife, Nancy. With that wink, she'll get even with me later, I know. But anyways, moving on. I'm P.K. O'Neill. I'm a Republican candidate for Assembly District 40, currently held by Pete Livermore, who's retiring. And I want to thank him. He has endorsed me, and he's really mentored me on how to be a better person, be a better candidate for you, and in the end, be a better assemblyman. So, Pete, also, thank you very much. Thank you for the endorsement. And I want to show you, not only has Pete endorsed me, but I've got endorsements from some of the other legislators, including also from the South, such as John Hamburg, who is one of our Assembly District 2 assemblymen from Las Vegas area. I've been in Carson City area for about 34 years. I came out here in March of 1980 from Miami, Florida. I started with the State Division of Investigation and worked with in investigations for about 25 years. I worked my way up the chain into administration, and in 2005 I got transferred to form up a Records and Technology Division. I retired from the Department of Public Safety in November of 2009, where I started my own business, doing consultant work for various entities, both private and public, on business process review, IT issues, policies, and personnel matters. I started when I was with the Division of Investigation. When I made Deputy Chief in 2003, I started working with the legislature, representing our division to the legislators on both budgeting and various bills, the good, bad, and the ugly of bills that were being proffered in the legislature. I carried that forward when I was working with the Division of when I went to Records and Technology. And really, with the Records and Technology Division, it was a very underappreciated, understaffed, overworked, and terribly behind in their deliverables to the community in their work. Working with staff, I had 145 people on staff, $40 million budget that I had to control and manage. But working with them, we had initial backlogs of 6+ months on our deliverables. And those deliverables, most of those were fingerprint background checks for private entities such as real estate doctors, nurses, caregivers, social workers, etc., that could not go to work for 6 months. I went with staff, I empowered them, I believe, and asked them, how do we fix this? Not only were they able to take that 6-month backlog and some 8,000 odd fingerprint backlog, they were able to reduce it down within, by 2007, to 30 days. And when I left in 2009, they were at a week and approaching 3 days in reply. So people were able to get to work. And one of the things that I stress to them, and have always stressed in all my 40 years of service, is government. People are not here for government. Government is here to serve the people. That is what we did. That is what we've got to do. That's what we've got to continue to do. is we've got to remember that government is here for you. You are not here for government. So very quickly, a couple of my issues, and then I'll have questions. I'm naturally concerned with PERS. I'm concerned with the margins tax. We've got to kill the margins tax. With some of the sunset taxes, we've got to wean ourselves off of that. Veterans affairs or veterans conditions are very important to me. Education, I see, is tied into the economy. If we're going to have a growing, vibrant economy, we also need a good education. Throwing money just at education is not the answer. We actually have to look for success stories, and one of them is right here with this Silver State Charter School. So that's what we have to look at, is where are our successes and replicate those across the state. There's several other things, but Carol is giving me the... Okay, I thought it was the finger at first. She's giving me the look. So with that said, I just want to tell you one thing, maybe two things. If you value a person that's been around, hard knocks, education, living in life experiences, I'm the candidate. I promise you that I will take some of the same work ethics that I displayed in law enforcement, carry them forward into the legislature. We may not always agree on everything every day, but at the end of the day, I will promise you that we will have worked hard to find some form of resolution, and if we can't, then we'll just say flat no to the policy program. And I want to thank you all very, very much. No questions? I'll leave. Oh, jeez. Yes, ma'am.
86% of Nevada land is owned by the federal government, and what happened at the Bundy Ranch, I might not agree with Bundy in what he did, but the federal government was way out of line. And with the Obama administration trying to cut ranching and putting more taxes and so forth on mining, you know, we've got to get Nevada to own our land. We got to get our land back.
Yes.
So what do you think?
I think you're right. That was easy. I will add, though, because I'm learning to be a politician, currently there is an interim study being done in the legislature to address some of those, to start that policy of getting some of our land back. I do agree with you. If you go Colorado East, they own their land. Colorado West, except for one place over the hill from us, the predominant part of their land is owned by the federal government, but no state is so servient to the federal government as Nevada with those percentages. Even the second state after us only has about 15% of their, or 50% of their land held by the government, by the feds. So we've got to get it back. We've got to take control. And it's part of state rights, which is also one of my concerns. So thank you very much. Sir.
Isn't Utah 64?
64%?
Okay, I flunked that test. I thought it was Montana, to tell you the truth. I know Utah does have a bill right now where it can get their lands back. So, anybody else? Going once? Twice? That was easy. Oh, another question.
Just one more. What is your stand on Common Core?
You know, Common Core, honestly speaking to you, it's a nice theory because we're a very transient country now. You've got to admit, I mean, I came out from Florida, moved to Florida from Virginia, so I've been around. And we probably should, there probably should be standards, so as we move our little Johnny and Jonies from 2, that they have that same educational level at those grades. But it has been bastardized, so, and poorly deployed, poorly designed by people that really didn't have a background in education. And in Nevada, it was forced down our throats. There was really no hearing, no discussion on it. I agree with the theory we need to do it. It's the practice, the reality of life that I'm against Common Core in, and the way it is designed currently. So I guess, yes, the theory is nice, but the reality is horrible, and it needs to be pulled, redesigned before it's sold again. And there's other issues, actually, the way it was deployed here in Carson I could go into that have caused more problems than they need. But That's it on Common Course. Does that answer it for you?
Yes, it does.
Anything else? Thank you all very much. I appreciate your support, but most likely I would appreciate your vote. Please. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I usually don't have much trouble being heard. I used to call my brothers and sisters from about a half a mile away. Recently, I did some surveys among the people of northeastern Nevada. Now, I found a lot of fear and trepidation and worry. One of the things that I can't think of a single small business owner that I talked to who was not concerned about the margins tax. They told me about how much it was going to cost them, what they were going to do to cut back below the $1 million mark of money flowing through their treasury. They talked about all kinds of consequences, loss of jobs, so forth. So they are petrified. What I heard earlier about taking on the margins tax, I think that's something we better focus on, and hard. They also asked me this question. They said, what are we going to do about all that stuff that has accumulated in Washington, D.C., in the halls of Congress, in the White House and around the White House, in courts, and all of that effluent that has percolated down upon the states, creating an ever greater suffocation among us, the people. Especially true here in Nevada with, what did you say, 86%? I've heard 84.5%, 86%. Doesn't matter. It's simply overwhelming. And I've grown up in the West. I know all about Western culture and how difficult it is to deal with federal regulation. I know it well. I have an answer for how we can deal with it. When I was 15, I was hired by a farmer to clean out his barn. Now, in his divine wisdom, he had allowed his flock of sheep to remain in that barn for the entire winter.
Whoa.
And instead of cleaning out the deposits that the sheep made, he simply put more straw on top, and they pounded it down into something like adobe. 3 feet deep. He hired me, and he took me over to the barn and said, "What do you think, young man? Do you think you can clean that out?" And I said, "I guess so, sir." He handed me a shovel, a pick, and a wheelbarrow. And 3 weeks later, using strokes of that pick and shovels full of material and wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow, we finally cleaned out that barn. Now, all that stuff that has accumulated in Washington, D.C., and all of the stuff that has accumulated on top of us in this state can be removed. It can be, with all of us together picking up the picks, the shovels, and the wheelbarrows. One vote at a time, one issue at a time, one candidate at a time, one regulation at a time, until such time as we can breathe again. It can be done. And as governor, that's what I'm hoping I can help you to do. Questions? Yes.
Who's your background, please?
My background is I am an ordained Presbyterian minister, retired, spent 45 years in 9 different states in 5 different regions of the United States, serving a wide variety of communities, urban, suburban, small town, rural. I know the western half of the United States quite well, but I also have lived and worked in the East. And I understand the mindset of the folks in the East toward us. They simply do not understand the kinds of pressures which we operate under. They don't. They can't. They've never lived in a state that is 86% controlled by the federal government. That is my background, a background of service all my life. This, for me, is simply another form of service. Yes. Yes.
Question, how do you feel about states' rights are important, of course, 10th Amendment. 10th Amendment, most important thing for states, I feel. Would you disagree, or how would you help the state?
You mean that particular amendment is the most important item?
I think it's one of the strongest ways a state can exercise its retortion or fight back against the federal government with their overwhelming control.
We need to use that amendment and every other tool available to us within the U.S. Constitution and our own state constitution. The state constitution provides that Congress may revoke their control, the federal control of land, turn it back to the state. We need to follow every avenue possible to preserve the integrity, the sovereignty, and the dignity of this state and its people. Yes. Yes.
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 clearly states what the federal government is allowed to procure land for, and they're right now in complete violation and just continuing to keep it for no use at all, really, to protect animals of some sort. Now, what exactly would you be willing to do to fight against that?
As governor, constitutional powers are spelled out under our Constitution in the state. I would need to remain within those constitutional powers to carry out the fight. But fight, I would. Carry it to them in every way we can in terms of the representatives that serve us here, the ways in which we as a state manage land. We need to go after that. We need to form alliances with other states. That's in the works. Other Western states are already talking about forming a coalition to bring the request to the federal government, as other states have in the past. 38 states already control most of their land. There is no reason why we can't be moving in that direction ourselves. We have to change the leadership at the top in this country also. We must do that. We must change the regulatory environment, or we're not going to be able to act free.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
The Second Amendment to the Nevada State Constitution pretty much gives all authority over to the federal government when it comes to things like that. But when the federal government is in violation of the Constitution, per the First Amendment, like I mentioned, what are you willing to do to protect us from them violating the Constitution?
I think one of the most important duties of the governor is to defend the people of this state, defend the land of this state, and advance their cause. I would do whatever is constitutionally within my authority to do so, and I would do so with vigor and purpose, and I would ask everyone in this state to be part of it.
Does that include possibly calling up the state militia or the National Guard in order to protect our citizens from an invasive federal government, such as what happened with the Bundy Ranch when they showed up with arms and were pointing them at
I would
unarmed civilians?
I would insist that no invasion of that type ever occur again without the governor being notified first and without local authorities. There's a retired sheriff right back in that corner who can tell you what used to happen. The sheriff was involved, not federal forces. I've got to quit. Thank you.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Jim Bathgate, running for school trustee, as Morris just said, in District 1. I'm running because I think I offer a perspective. Do I need to be louder? I'm running because I think I can offer a perspective that's not currently represented on the school board, that of a college professor. I have a PhD in economics from the University of Connecticut. I've been teaching college economics for close to 14 years. I was a full-time college professor in the People's Republic of Oregon. And after my 6th year, my wife became pregnant with twins, and I quit to become a stay-at-home dad. Since that point, I have been a stay-at-home dad for my kids, and I teach economics in the evenings. For the last, we escaped Oregon and came here 5 years ago. And for the last 3 years, I've been teaching economics at Western Nevada College. And for four of the last 5 years, I've been a math and economics tutor at WNC as well. And I think with my background, I think I have a lot to offer. I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think anybody on the school board has the perspective of a college professor as I do. And I have a lot of concerns about some of the things I see. I have, well, a lot of the students who show up at WNC, well, it's not a random sample by any means, but a lot of recent Carson graduates, they show up and they're motivated, they're interested, but many of them are lacking what I think is the ability to handle college-level material in their first year of college. And they end up spending the first year at WNC just trying to make up for the deficiencies of their education. I'd like to know why. Particularly, I always focus on the math. I'd like to know why that is. And I think I have a lot to offer, and I hope you guys will support me. I'm new to the politics game. I haven't been fundraising, but I finally got a website up yesterday. My website is jbforschoolboard.com, jbforschoolboard.com, or jimbathgate.com. And I'm running against an incumbent, which is never an easy thing. So I would sure appreciate any support you can offer. And I'm willing to answer any questions you have or anything. Yes?
I've had a particular problem with what seems to me revisionist history, where certain people are not liked because they may have owned slaves, such as Jefferson. How are we going to take back history so it reflects what actually happened?
You know, I'd love, if I knew the answer, that would be a wonderful thing. Because I spoke with somebody who served in that role as a school board trustee for a number of years, and I asked him about it. Could you tell me a little bit about the process? And he said, well, you really can't change much. And that's not exactly what I wanted to hear.
That's not what I want to hear.
Well, you know, I'd love to find out why it is they can't change very much. You know, and so that's, you know. I wish I could add more than that.
I'd like to know how you propose to change things to make kids more prepared for college. I graduated from high school and went to college many years ago, and they were no more prepared for college back then than they are now. It hasn't happened in 40 years or 45 years that I know of. What do you think you can do to make that change?
I would really like to try and push students a little bit harder, especially in the math, the sciences. I think especially the way the economy has been moving, capital and labor are becoming less and less complementary. People are being replaced by capital. So you better be up on your technology. You better be up on math and science, or you're going to have a permanent unemployment problem.
What's your position on parental choice and on Common Core?
Okay, parental choice. You're talking about with regards to
Vouchers,
well, as a fellow economist, I know you know that competition generally breeds innovation. More competition, the better. Competition can only lead to more improvement. I'm totally for school vouchers. I don't think I would be able to push that in any way on the school board, but I certainly would support it. I'm in favor of charter schools. Anything that would increase competition, you have no choice but to innovate, or you fail. And if you fail, you should go out of business. That's the way it should work. Common Core, I certainly don't have any problem with an academic standard to which students must be held in the testing and all of that. I just have a problem with that standard. I don't like the idea that it was imposed by the federal government. I think education is a local issue, should be dealt with on the local level. I think this is by no means the camel's nose under the tent. The federal government has been getting involved in education for years. I'm all for vouchers, Common Core. I would, if it were me, I would scrap the whole thing. I don't like, and the more I learn about it, the less I like it.
How do you feel about the kids that get moved from grade to grade to grade when they can't read at their grade level, but they get passed up to the next grade?
It's cruel. Honestly, it's sad to do that to somebody. Because they show up, not only did they not learn what they needed to learn in a given year, then they end up spending the entire next year trying to catch up with what they should have learned, and they're just falling further and further behind, and then they become a problem that's almost unsolvable, and somebody just moves them
So
along.
how do we stop that?
I don't know. Policy change. Yeah, policy change, right? Yeah, Pete.
Carson City has one 5-star school. Do you know what it is?
Would that be Montessori school?
It's Montessori Charter School.
Yep.
Why can a charter school have a 5-star rating that no public school has in itself? Would you do something to encourage further enhancements to our public schools to make them 5-star?
I think it's the competition with schools such as the Montessori school that is going to force other schools to have to become better. Otherwise, people will just leave the public schools and go off to charter schools. My kids attended the Montessori for kindergarten.
Would you favor abolishing public education in the state and making all schools private?
You're asking me something that would be in no way my purview as a role on the school board. You're just asking my personal opinion? Yeah. Abolishing it entirely, I don't think that's actually feasible. But if you were to make me emperor, and I could start from scratch.
You did it with vouchers.
If I did it with vouchers, if that was the final outcome and it actually led to an overall improvement in the educational system, I would have no problem with it. As long as it brought everybody up with it, I have no problem with that. Sure.
Yeah. As one of our district representatives on the school board, you're going to be involved with negotiations with the unions. We continually throw money at education, and most of that money seems to go to pay raises and less effective education. How do you feel about unions as a whole, and what we can do to encourage those union members to give us more bang for our buck?
Well, the fundamental problem with public sector unions as opposed to private sector unions is they don't have that common interest of they need the employer to succeed in order to maintain their jobs. So when you are a private sector union, you want your employer to do well, and they can continue to give you a job and you earn your higher salary as you progress in your job. But with the public sector unions, who's their employer? You guys, all of us. And we're never going to go out of business, are we? So we can always pay them more. That's sort of from the economic analysis of it why I have a problem with public sector unions to begin with. And for the record, my wife's a state employee. My wife also has a PhD in economics. We met in graduate school. She works for the state.
One more question?
This is a tough one.
Oh.
How do you deal with the blackmail by the unions? While you're negotiating to their pay raises, they can also say, but we're not going to support you next time you're up for election.
That's apparently how the game is played, and I'm going to learn how to have to play the game myself. I'm new at this. I'm just an economics geek who's just trying to get involved in his community. I'll learn how the game's played, and hopefully I can help out. That's all.
Tough question, huh?
Yeah. I appreciate your support.
Well, hello. Is this my box? Well, my name is Ryan Green. I'm running for school board trustee in District 4. I was born and raised here. Just a little bit about myself first. I was born and raised here in Carson City. I went to college at UNR. And then for the last 11 years, and currently I work for the city of North Las Vegas, actually, but I live here. I commute back and forth. I'm a firefighter for my occupation, and in brief, that's what I do. That's what I really like to do. I've been, with my wife and I, we decided to move back here, I think 5 or 6 years ago, and I like working down there, so I've kept my job. I am running for school board trustee because I care about our community. I think that the best way, I know we talk about the money that goes into education, but the reality is we're already paying that. I think the best way to create a better culture in this town and ramp up the economy, it's a slower way, but is to have more educated children coming out of school, better educated as a whole coming out of school, and more prepared to not only enter college, but the workforce in general. And so I want to be more involved. That's why I put in to run for the school board, to hopefully make a better product. I think some of the things that Mr. Bathgate hinted at, the new technologies that are out there and everything else, this school is a really good example of it. There's different ways to engage young people. And so it's not that all of them should fail or some should fail or any part. Maybe we just aren't engaging them properly. And so I'm hoping that as a school board member, I can work to even further engage more young people. Because we already know there's a group of really smart ones, exceptional kids that get it. But it's that group that was mentioned earlier that say they fail one grade. They're just slightly behind, but we push them forward. We are failing them at that moment. What we need to do is make some unhappy parents, or we need to figure out a better way to engage that child. Because maybe we did not do our part in getting to them. I work with 150 different men and women. I worked with a few that didn't even graduate from high school. They got their GEDs and then they became firemen. They're some of the smartest people I know. They're smarter than my best friend's a doctor here at the hospital. And I look at them and I think they were hyperactive kids. They were bouncing off the walls. And they're smarter than my buddy, you know? And so we failed them if we didn't come up with a way to engage them. Because they still succeeded in life, even without our help. So I think in the school board, it'll be my job to ensure that our district, our teachers, that we are getting those children, all of them, the resources that they need to be able to succeed. I'll take a question.
Do you think the schools need more money?
It's a catch-22. Look, every business will tell you they need more money. So, but anybody who runs a business or organization, at the end of the day, you have a pot and you figure out how to do it with what you got. And so the reality is, as a school board trustee, I don't get to just get more money for them. I have to figure out how to get the best out of them with the pot I have. So I guess the simple answer is we're producing children right now with what we have. Do we need more? Probably. But do all these extra programs always help? No. What we have to do, more money doesn't mean better. I think everybody in this room agrees. First and foremost, what you do is you go in and you clean out any unnecessary spending. Before you get more money, you make sure that your stuff is straight. And then you assess what you have and what you need. And then if the answer is more money at that point, then maybe so.
What's your position on increasing competition between schools through the choice program as was addressed by...
I couldn't agree more with messing up the box. I mean, obviously, competition is everything. It'll create, exactly like Mr. Bathgate said, it makes schools try harder. It'll make everything from teachers to schools try harder. There's undoubtedly it would be better for them. So as far as that's concerned, any way you can create competition, I think always helps. The most important part, though, is ensuring that we don't have whole schools failing children either, though. So we want them to compete, but we absolutely cannot have a whole group of kids just simply losing in life because of the school that they are going to. That's our job as adults and role models to ensure that they have opportunities also. Okay.
I'm sorry to ask this, but being part of the school board, there's a lot more meetings than just the one meeting. How do you anticipate doing that with working in Las Vegas? Is it going to be physically possible for you to attend these meetings?
Well, it's obviously not physically possible for me to be in two places at once. However, my schedule rotates. I coach soccer, I referee soccer, I'm involved with my son's karate classes. I do a lot of local activities that I make time for. It's just like anybody else's life. I work, if I was a firefighter here in town, I work the exact same amount of days. So my job is irrelevant in that respect. We know when the meetings are, and then actually, to my benefit, I have more weekdays off where I can go be involved in schools, visit them, and learn more about them and what they need than say a person with a 9-to-5 job.
As you can guess, I'm not a real big fan of unions, but I think that we can use it. What's your opinion on asking the carpenters or the pipe fitters or other groups like that to make up courses we can teach in our high schools to get the students who aren't interested in academics to have something where they can go out and get a job?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because that's part of the reason I'm running. If you get on the district site right now, they have a strategic plan in place. It's called, it's a 5-year plan. It ends in 2017. And a major part of that plan is engaging the public, the business community. So in the report this week that they gave, or the last school board meeting they gave, this last year they've had over 100 different folks from this community come and get involved with the school system. And that's not just academics. That's trades, that's business owners, and they're setting paths. So not every child will go to college. Not everyone should. It's certainly not for everybody. And so we have to be receptive to all of their needs. And so if it's bringing in the unions, that's what we need to do. Apprentice programs are wonderful. And I think that we would find that we wouldn't have to work very hard to get them engaged. They want people. And so just like I said, the schools right now are getting people coming in. So it's letting business owners know that we want them involved.
I'm thinking of going to a machinist union and asking them to ask the companies, you have a mill you can give to the high school.
Yeah.
I'm talking about going over to the pipe fitters union and saying, can you set up a welding shop for us?
Right.
That's got all the latest equipment.
We take all the free stuff we can get.
Everything.
Yes. Always.
What's your opinion of homeschooling?
They have a set of standards. If that's what a parent feels is best for their child, then that's what they do. I'm going to tell you, my children go to St. Teresa's School. They're not in the school district. And the reason they go to St. Teresa's School is because my wife and I wanted our children to go to a faith-based school. But I have lots of family and friends in this district, and with all the activities we do, I feel like my children are in the district. So I don't think that makes me a bad parent for choosing to have my children go to a faith-based school. So I wouldn't hold it against any parent who felt that what they could provide their child at home was better. As a parent, you make the decisions. You are in charge of making decisions for your child. And I have no interest in taking that right away from any parent.